Also, I'd like to welcome Dr. Omar Mendoza Mahmood. Thank you for making time to come. Dr. Omar Mendoza Mahmood graduated from the University of California, Los Angeles with a double major in psychobiology and Arabic. He studied traditional Islamic sciences in Tahrim, Yemen. He then did his PhD in clinical psychology at Wayne State University, currently acting clinical director of psychology at Sidra Medicine, Qatar, and assistant professor of psychology in clinical psychiatry at Weill Cornell Medical College. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Omar Mendoza Mahmood to deliver his talk entitled Having Good Opinion, a Spiritual Strategy for Psychological Coping. Silakan.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله صلاة وسلام دائمين بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Alhamdulillah, thank you for being here and inviting me here. I think we're just waiting for the slide to come up. And I had just come from Singapore for the Sacred Path of Love conference there. This was their 10th anniversary of the conference. And it was, alhamdulillah, it was a blessed gathering. And I'll present to you some similar topics of what we discussed at that conference, combining some of the ideas. But the main idea we're working on today is having a good opinion, or in the Arabic it is called husn al-dhann, having a good opinion, and how you can use that as a psychological tool in facing any difficulties you have, facing your life challenges. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Isn't it, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, isn't it by the remembrance of Allah that your heart finds serenity, that you will find peace with remembrance, with making dhikr, with turning towards Allah. And of course, the best of dhikr is the Quran. As Ustaz Iqbal Zain mentioned, that we turn to the Quran, we base a lot of our worldview on the Quran. And that's the primary source that we as Muslims go to kind of figure out what's our strategy. But also we rely on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and we also rely on the teachings of the scholars of Islam. When they give us advice, they give us strategies, and so forth. So that's just a reminder that even though today I'm going to talk a little bit about some other strategies, interventions that the Muslims have used in facing difficulties, many times we will talk a little bit about the role of poetry and qasidas and nasheeds, and how singing these in gatherings can help a person psychologically. But I'm just making the point that, of course, our first and foremost major type of dhikr or remembrance is the Quran itself. So let's go forward. He can't hear me, so I have to signal him. When you think about psychological treatment, usually the patient comes with a mixture of ideas in their mind, and then the therapist or the counselor helps them organize those thoughts. So a good therapist or a good psychological counselor should not be giving you advice, should not be coaching you. That's what a personal trainer does, or a personal coach. They will give you advice. But a good therapist will not just sit there and give you advice. In fact, in a good psychological session, it should be the patient or the client who does most of the talking. And you as the psychologist or the counselor, you're just listening, but then you're giving a little bit of guidance here and there. You're helping to organize the thoughts. You're helping to question some of the assumptions. If someone has, negative thinking in their mind, you try to question it and help them get it to a more positive state. So you're just taking the same thoughts that they have and just helping them reorganize it. You're not trying to give anything new. In the spiritual realm, you have, for example, our teachers, our mashayikh, who give us spiritual advice. And this is not as much it involves, I think, the cognitive, the thinking aspect, but it also involves the heart. And so there's a connection between the hearts. And in a similar way, Islamic spirituality, we look at how we can rectify our heart. How can we redirect some of the inclinations of our heart to be more healthy, to be more spiritually strong, growing towards Allah, towards our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the combination of the thinking and the heart, I think, is very important for the Muslim. This combines your theory, your knowledge, as well as your spiritual practice. So this is the main thing we're focusing on. It's a little bit cut off on the top there, but we're focusing on this hadith Qudsi. أنا عند ظن عبدي بي فليظن بي ما شاء أو كما قال. There's different narrations of how it's completed. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am according to my servant whatever his opinion of me is. I will be to you whatever your opinion of me is. That's what Allah says. So whatever you suspect, whatever you presume, whatever you predict that you think Allah is going to be in your life, that's how He will be for you. Whatever opinion you have. So our teachers would say, then you should have husnul dhann billah. You should have a good opinion of Allah. A good opinion of Allah means that I believe Allah is merciful. I believe He wants to guide me. I believe He has something good planned for me. There's some wisdom in the things He's sending me in my life. Even if I'm in difficulty, even if I'm facing a challenge. Husn al-dhan, having a good opinion of Allah, means that Allah maybe is teaching me something with this. Maybe there's a benefit I do not see yet from this trial or tribulation I'm going through. Maybe it's removing some sins from me. In other words, there's some purpose to our existence. It's not just random, events and random pain, whatever you experience in the dunya. There is some plan that Allah has for you, and your husn al-dhan, your good opinion of Allah, means that you're constantly reminding yourself that it's not just, bad things, and that your Lord does not have a good plan for you. So, bad opinion of Allah, or su' al-dhan, a bad opinion would be if you feel God is trying to get you in some way. He's trying to harm you. He doesn't have your best interest in mind. He's always trying to make you fail. He's always trying to mess up your life. That would be a bad opinion of Allah. But whatever your opinion is, that's how you will see the world. Whatever your opinion of Allah is, whatever thought process you have, that's how you will interpret the events in your life. And you will begin to see the world through that lens. Ibn Mas'ud said, قَسَمًا بِاللَّهِ مَا ظَنَّ أَحَدٌ بِاللَّهِ ظَنًّا إِلَّا أَعْطَاهُ مَا يَظُنُّ. I swear by Allah, no one has ever had a thought, an opinion about Allah except that Allah gave him what he expected. Whatever you think, it will play out in your life. That will be the reality that you're going to see. That, it's in your choice. It's your choice how you want to view whatever is happening to you in your life. So this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, what we say. You'll see there's a cycle. You have your beliefs then shape your behavior influences other people's behavior, and then that reinforces your beliefs. So this is an example in a social context. So if I believe something, it will affect my own actions. And when I act out in the world a certain way, it will influence other people around me, or my environment in some way. And then my environment will come back to my thoughts and my beliefs. So this cycle, you can apply it to almost anything. I think I might have an example, because someone had mentioned about the students. Let's see, I think it might be the next one. Yeah, this one. So here's a negative cycle. I think I'm studying for my test, for my exam. I'm studying and I think, I'm going to fail this exam. I'm not smart. I cannot succeed. I'm definitely going to fail it. So that takes you to a feeling of sad, frustrated, you're stressed out. So what do? You just go hang out with your friends. You say, why should I study? I'm going to fail anyways. Why would I need to study? I know I'm going to be a failure. So because you didn't study, when you come to the exam, guess what? You do poorly on the exam. And then you say, see, I told you I was going to fail. This is the same cycle that people get stuck in all kinds of behaviors. They'll say, oh, nobody likes me, I should just, not talk to people. Nobody likes me. I'm so socially, I'm not a likable person. They don't like my personality. I annoy people. So if you think that, you're going to feel like very tense and anxious around people socially. And then when people come to talk to you, they say, hey, this guy is so anxious and so tense, and his heart rate is always going fast and always tight. And so then they're going to not talk to you as much. And then you're going to say, see, nobody wants to talk to me. So it creates a cycle. Whatever your expectation is, you tend to fulfill that philosophy, or fulfill that prophecy for you, for yourself. So this is the interplay between our thoughts, our feelings, our behavior, and our environment. It all comes back in a certain way. And if you're stuck in a negative cycle, it just gets worse and worse. So if you go the opposite way, you can make a positive cycle. You have positive thoughts, positive beliefs, positive feelings, and positive actions. And I'm not talking about positive where you're just like happy all the time and it's like, jumping and celebrating. I'm not talking about that. I just mean a more, looking forward way of dealing with your life, a way in which you don't assume everything is against you. You assume there's some divine plan from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has your best interest in mind. So you can reverse these things and again, then have that positive effect on your reality, and then your reality will become that more positive thing, and you'll keep reinforcing it. And you'll see, I knew I could trust Allah. I knew that it wasn't this, there wasn't complete, randomness to the life events I'm experiencing. So in this example of the student, you can reverse it. You can say, I'm smart enough. I can do okay. Even if I did the quiz, I did not do so good, but on the exam, I know I have the potential to succeed. So then you feel more encouraged. You feel more confident. You feel more motivated. And then your behavior will reflect that. You say, my friends are going out tonight, but actually I'm going to go study. I'm going to go to the library. I'm going to focus. I'm going to study. And you pay attention. You review your notes. And of course, when you go for the exam, you're going to do better than the person who didn't study at all. And then that reinforces you, and you think to yourself, see, I knew I have the ability. I have self-efficacy. I have self-esteem. I can get to places. And that's based on, this positive thinking cycle. This is just a very simple example. I'm just giving, so we understand the concept, a very simple example of studying, but, there can be much more complex versions of this. So I don't know if you can see, it's hard to see the pictures here, but you can't really choose your circumstance, but you can choose the perspective you take. You can choose how you interpret your life circumstances. So in this situation, we were talking about someone who's completely alone. They feel very alone. They feel isolated. And in this picture, someone is standing in the ocean. There's nobody else around. Just a vast ocean, the sun is setting, and you can see already in these two pictures, these two people are interpreting the life event differently. The same event, same thing is happening to both people. They're alone, they're in the water, they're facing the ocean, but internal experience, it might be totally different based on how you decide to view that moment. Are you going to feel sorry for yourself? Are you going to feel upset? Are you going to say, why Allah? Why is this happening to me? Why am I like this? How come I'm just alone, so isolated? Or are you going to say, Alhamdulillah, I'm finally alone. I can just me and you, Ya Allah, just me and you. You must have brought me here for some reason. Let me turn to you. Let me call out to you, Ya Allah. And it's more of a gratefulness, acceptance, turning towards Allah. In the same exact situation. That's the point. What we're saying is that the circumstance actually doesn't really matter that much. When I visit, this is a story I always tell, but when I visit, I was working in a hospital, working in a nursing facility, And these were older patients, and we were doing our psychological and neuropsychological evaluations. And you come to a patient in a room, and it's a very sad-looking hospital-type room. They just have a bed and a little, table next to them for their items, and they're just lying there most of the day. Because maybe they had some surgery, they broke their hip, or they lost maybe their ability to walk properly or move around properly. And there might be 2 or 3 people in one room, just separated by a curtain. And I'll walk to the first patient and I'll say, "How are you doing, sir? How is everything going today?" And he'll say, "This is such a wretched life. This is so unfortunate how I find myself now. Look at this. I'm sitting in this bed all day, and they come and they bring me this food that doesn't even taste good, and they bring this food to me, and someone has to help me to go to the bathroom. I can't even go to the bathroom by myself. There's no dignity. It's very insulting to me. And my grandson, he only comes and visits me once a month, just to say hi, and then he leaves. What kind of life is this? So upset, so depressed." Then I'll say, "Okay, I'll go to the next bed over. Same patient is in the same room, same situation. Physically disabled, or had a surgery, or even maybe had some abilities that they lost. And I say, 'How are you doing?' And this guy, in my mind, this was in America, so they weren't necessarily Muslim, but in my mind, I'm thinking the guy's saying, 'Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good.' And he'll say, what's great? They bring me food 3 times a day. I don't even have to cook. And I can't go to the bathroom, but, it's so nice. Someone helps me to go to the bathroom, helps me, cleans it up, everything. I can get back in bed. And, even my grandson, he comes once a month, and I get to see him, and we talk. It's so nice to see him catch up. Same exact situation, but completely different perspective. That's the difference between su'ul dhan and husnul dhan. That you just change your opinion of Allah. That you're saying, Allah, whatever you're putting me through, there must be some wisdom to it. There must be something I can find good out of it. And you can tell people in life, you can go through life and you can tell the people who look at things through a negative lens and who look at through a more positive lens. It doesn't mean, again, as I said, the positive one doesn't mean you're happy all the time. Even your sadness, even your own sadness and anxiety and depression, you can have husnul dhan about that too. You can say, "Ya Allah, maybe this moment of sadness, it's time for me to reflect. It's bringing me closer to you. I'm crying, I'm turning towards you, Ya Allah. There must be some benefit. Even I believe tears have a benefit. When I'm crying, there's some benefit to that." So I'm not saying it's all happiness. I'm saying whatever state you're going through, you can still have a good opinion of your Lord in that moment. Sayyidina al-Hasan, the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Inna al-mu'min ahsana al-dhan bi rabbih fa ahsana al-amal. وَإِنَّ الْمُنَافِقَ أَسَاءَ الظَّنِّ بِرَبِّهِ فَأَسَاءَ الْعَمَلِ." The believer has a good opinion of his Lord, and so because of that good opinion, he puts ihsan into his actions. He puts ihsan into his deeds. He makes excellent work in his deeds. While the hypocrite has a bad opinion of his Lord, and so he makes bad things out of his deeds. He doesn't put much effort. He doesn't put that type of excellence, that precision into his actions. So your opinion of Allah will affect your actual, actions that you do. This is kind of reinforcing what we were talking about earlier in that cycle of the thoughts, the feelings, and the actions. Ibn Abbas, he says, "Al-jubn wal-bukhl wal-hirs غرائز سوء يجمعها كلها سوء الظن بالله عز وجل." Fear, if you're fearful, you're cowardly, you don't want to act, you're holding back. Or you're miserly, you're feeling very greedy and you don't want to share or you don't want to spend. Or you're jealous, you have envy of people. You don't like what other people have, or you wish you had what they had. All of these negative feelings, those are instincts of evil, Ibn Abbas says, and you can find them all gathered and united in having a bad opinion of Allah. In other words, you feel that Allah, it's almost as if you're saying Allah made a mistake, astaghfirullah, but like you're saying, God, He made a mistake. Look at the life I'm living. It shouldn't be this way. I should have what that person has. Or I need to hold on to this, I can't lose it. Or I'm scared to act, I'm scared to go out into the world because it's a dangerous place for me. That's having a bad opinion of Allah. That means that you actually think Allah put you in a situation that you weren't supposed to be in. And He puts you exactly where you're supposed to be in that moment. You just have to accept it and realize it and figure out what's your next step forward. So Ibn al-Qayyim, he says, فَعَلَى قَدْرِ حُسْنِ ظَنِّكَ بِرَبِّكَ وَرَجَائِكَ لَهُ يَكُونْ تَوَكُّلَكَ عَلَيْهِ. So a lot of people ask about tawakkul. How do you rely upon Allah? How do you depend upon Allah more in your life? Increase your tawakkul. So Ibn al-Qayyim says the amount of your good opinion and the hope you have in your Lord, that will be the tawakkul that you have on Him. So again, we always try to figure out, can we rely on Allah more? Can we be more dependent on Allah so we don't try to look towards other factors or try to rely on people? Because inevitably, if you rely entirely on people, you will be disappointed at some point in your life. Because people are not perfect. People make mistakes. Sometimes they will actually hurt you. Sometimes it's just out of neglect. They didn't mean to hurt you, but they didn't fulfill something, and you'll be disappointed. But if you constantly rely upon Allah, you won't be disappointed. You will know that there's something for you. And many of the benefits don't come out right away. They come out later. You discover it later after going through something. So the amount of good opinion you have, the amount of hope you have in the mercy of your Lord, that's going to correlate directly with your tawakkul. So this was a dua of Ibn Jubair. He said, Sa'id ibn Jubair said, Allahumma inni as'aluka sidq at-tawakkuli alayk wa husn al-dhan bik. So see how he ties both of those concepts together. The good opinion and the tawakkul. He would ask Allah, give me truthfully tawakkul and a good opinion of you. Tawakkul meaning reliance upon Allah, being able to depend on Allah, being the feeling that you are depending on Allah. So that's what we say when we say Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, And our teachers tell us to repeat that phrase many times. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. It's enough for us to have Allah, and He's the best being that we can rely on. He's the best of all the things in the universe. He's the best thing for us to rely on. So when you remind yourself of that with repetition, you get the meaning more, soaked into your mind and your heart. So these are some steps if you want to think about how we would use husn al-dhan to be more positive in the things in your life. You have to, number one, be aware of any negative thoughts you're having. Listen to your own thoughts. Examine your own thoughts. You have to have some muraqabah, some muhasabah. Think and look into yourself. Have moments in your day where you're reflecting on your own thought process. Am I thinking too negatively? Am I being too pessimistic? Am I being too, restricted rigid in my thinking? And so if you've noticed that, then you counter it with the thoughts that, show the opposite. So if you're saying to yourself, I will never succeed. I can never succeed in anything. But then you can tell yourself, but there was that one time when I did this properly, or I did that properly, or nobody ever loves me. No one can ever love me. Really, your entire life, no one ever showed you love? No, a parent, a family member, a relative, a classmate, someone in your life. So you think of examples to counter those thoughts. Then number 3 is very important. You check the influence of your environment, because you may be in an environment that is pulling you more towards the negative. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-mar'u ala dini khalili, falyanzuru ahadukum man yukhalil." A person is on the deen, the way of life of whoever you take as a close friend. So watch who your close friends are. If you're in the company of, even if you are kind of a positive person, if you're in the company of people who are taking you to the negative side, you'll be influenced by that. And likewise, the opposite is true. If you're feeling kind of low, kind of isolated, low motivation, just go and sit in the majalis of people of goodness, or go hang out with friends who will have a positive influence on you. Go have lunch with them, sit with them, be in their company, and you'll notice there's an effect, a social effect from that. And then you have to practice it daily. This method of looking at your thoughts, doing this muhasabah, figuring out, is my opinion of Allah, is it a good opinion of Allah? You have to practice it every day. You can't just do it once and then you're done. Because the way the dunya works is it's always a test for us. There's new tests and new challenges, and there's new whisperings, and there's always some challenge for the believer. So you have to then counter it with a daily practice of this type of reflection. This is a great dua from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. "Ud'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba. Wa'lamu anna Allah la yastajibu du'a min qalbin ghafin lahin." Make dua to Allah while you are convinced it will be answered. You know in your heart it will be answered. And we know that in our belief system, Allah answers all the du'as. If it's sincere dua from your heart, it has to be from the heart. It can't just be you're heedless and you're just saying something randomly off your tongue and you're not thinking and you're not focusing. Not that. It has to be an actual dua from your heart, a supplication, a prayer from your heart. Allah will answer it. We believe either Allah will answer it exactly as you asked, or we believe that He will give you something good that's in replacement of what you're asking. In other words, He answers your prayer, but in a form that you did not expect. You're asking for, something that you think will bring you to success, and Allah brings you to success through another route that you did not expect. That happens all the time, actually, in our lives, because we're too specific when we're thinking about our goals. If you're more flexible, you'll realize that Allah is pushing you towards many positive things. And the third way that Allah answers your prayer is He does not give it to you in the dunya. He holds on to your dua until the next life. And when He gives it to you in the next life, you'd wished that you didn't get any dua in this life, and that all your duas were answered in the next life, by how magnificent the response will be. But Allah is all hearing, all seeing. He will always, from a sincere heart, answer the prayer. So this is some spiritual medicine, the heart medicine. This is, of course, the Nafhat al-Ambariya poem from Imam al-Haddad. They recite it every morning in the awrad, and in Dar al-Mustafa they'll all sing it in the mornings together. So قَدْ اسْتَعَنْتُكَ رَبِّي عَلَى مُدَاوَةِ قَلْبِي. I am relying upon my Lord for the treatment of my heart, for the medicine of my heart, medication of my heart, almost you could say. وَحَلِّ عُقْدَةِ كَرْبِي فَانظُرْ إِلَى الْغَمِّ يَنْجَالِ. And I'm asking, oh Allah, untie the knot of my despair, my worries. And if you just look at this darkness, it will dissipate. If Allah were just to look at the dark clouds that are surrounding your mind and your heart, whatever worries and concerns you have, they would dissipate immediately. So it's just this, again, a reliance upon Allah. Keeping good company, the people you interact with, the place you're at, this is a very important part of the spiritual journey that we're trying to focus on. So this is, of course, Habib Ahmed Mashur al-Haddad, a very famous da'i and scholar. He called so many people to Islam in Africa. In later part of his life, he was in Jeddah, and many of our teachers now, they were all people who studied with him, or at least at some point sat in his majalis. And he would say that just like there's evil eye, there's also the good eye. There's hasad, there's evil eye. People look at you and then they create that social idea of talking, and then it gets into other people's minds, and the negative repercussions come back to you. There's a social aspect to that. But there's also the good eye, which is people of khair, people of nur. When they look at you and they pray for you, suddenly positive things start to happen in your life. So we believe that the company that you keep, especially company of people of righteousness, has an immense effect, and will be whatever effort you're doing to look at your own thoughts and feelings, it will be amplified if you're in the right company. Qasida of Imam Ali al-Habshi. I love this one because it's a very powerful statement. It says, قَدْ تَمَّمَ اللَّهُ مَقَاصِدِنَا وَزَالَ عَنَّا جَمِيعَ الْهَمِّ بِبَرْكَةِ النُّورِ شَافِعِنَا جُودُ وَفَضْلُ عَلَيْنَا عَمْ. Allah has already completed our goals. It's قَدْ تَمَّمَ اللَّهُ. In other words, it's a good opinion of Allah. You're saying God has already brought to me where I need to be. He's gotten me I've reached my goals. Allah has made that complete for me. And He has already removed all the fears and worries and depressions that I have. Already done. Because to Allah there's no past, present, and future. It doesn't really matter. He's not restricted by time like we are. So if you're believing in the good opinion of Allah, then you'll assume that He's already removed all these things from you. This one is very personal to me. Just to share with you all, my mother actually passed away about 2 months ago. Allah yarhamha. And the next day after she died, I was remembering this qasida. I was listening to this qasida, listening to it. And it was so moving to me because it was like Allah has already taken you there. He's already removed the depression, the sadness from your heart. And I was kind of repeating this poem over and over. And this is the spiritual medicine that we're talking about. So it goes, قَدْ تَمَّمَ اللَّهُ مَقَاصِدَنَا وَزَالَ عَنَّا جَمِيعَ الْهَمِّ بِبَرْكَةِ النُّورِ شَافِعِنَا جُودُ وَفَضْلُهُ عَلَيْنَا عَمْ. And it goes over and over like that. That the light of Muhammad ﷺ is kind of the barakah that allows this to happen, and that Allah's generosity and grace covers us, it rains over us. Another example from the Qasida of Imam Ali al-Habshi. This one was translated by Abd Hakim Murad. فَيَا نَفْسُ إِلَّمْ تَظْفَرِ لَا تَجْزَعِي وَإِلَى مَوَائِدِ جُودِ مَوْلَى كِهْرَعِي. Should you not gain your wants, my soul, then be not grieved, but hasten to that banquet which your Lord's bequeath. And know, when a thing for which you ask is slow to come, then know that often through that delay are gifts received. So sometimes you're asking Allah for something and it's delayed. It's not coming right away. And you're getting frustrated. And you're saying, Ya Allah, I'm asking you for this. I'm turning to you. But Allah is delaying it. And Imam Ali al-Habshi, he's saying that in the delay, there are gifts you might not realize. Maybe it's not your time yet. Maybe if you got there too early, it would be bad for you, actually. Or maybe while you're waiting, other little gifts are appearing. And if you went straight to the end, you would have skipped over all these good things. So to remember that is something that, the reason I'm mentioning these poems is because it helps you think, it helps you feel a certain way, and then it can affect your behaviors and your actions. I believe that's part of why our teachers always emphasize these types of poetry, these types of creative expressions. So here he's saying, and this is a recording on the Prophetic Invocations CD, if you have it. This qasida is there. Next one. Again, this is the last slide I have, I think. Knowing that the trials of life have rendered you despairing of all hope and of all joy bereaved, then shake yourself and rouse yourself from heedlessness and make pure hope a meadow that you never leave. Your Maker's gifts take subtle and uncounted forms. How fine the fabric of the world his hands have weaved. The gifts are varied. They're not just one type of gift. They take many different forms. And that's the hardest challenge for us, is because we focus on one goal. We're very rigid. And if we were to be more flexible about it, have a good opinion, we would realize that there's many gifts around us that are taking place. We just have to change the way that we look at it. I had a patient who he has high functioning autism, and he would say, when I invite my friends over and they don't come over to my house, I must be a failure. I've failed. And he feels really that he's failed when his friends are not coming over to visit him. And we talked about this, and it was like he has a very specific definition of success. The friends have to come over at a certain time, and if they don't, he's a failure. And we talked about, could you change your definition of success so that you're not failing right now? Maybe for some people, success is just waking up in the morning. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'dama amatana. You know, Allah brought me back to life after I was half dead in my bed, you know, not moving, not talking, barely, you know, my muscle tone was all relaxed. It looks kind of like you're dead. And they say sleep is kind of like the cousin of death, you know. It reminds you of that. So you wake up in the morning and you feel just blessed to be alive. Oh, I won. I'm successful today. Then the rest of your day, you can't fail. If that's your mindset, you just woke up, then that was a success for you. The rest of your day, you're good. So there's nothing really else that could make you feel like a failure, depending on how you define it. So I ask Allah, inshallah, to allow us to be able to be people of husn al-dhan, to allow us to be those that look to the circumstances in our life and turn towards Allah when we're in moments of difficulty, and that we can rely upon the Quran and the Hadith and the writings and the sayings of our scholars of Islam, inshallah. I think, yeah, that's it. Jazakumullah khair wal afa minkum.